guys? Welcome to Safe Continue Podcast. This
Doing
is
this again?
No, we shouldn't.
No, you started it, so go on.
What's up, guys? The Safe Continue Podcast.
What's up, guys? This is the Safe Continue Podcast.
I've had a very long day. 2 glasses of wine. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Safe Continue Podcast, where every week we talk about video games and video game related topics. I'm Shanae Howard.
Yes, you are.
I am. This is Tommy.
Hello.
Skiapi.
Happy Father's Day.
Shiapi. This is Ryan Robinson.
Hi. Father's dead. So.
Yeah. Happy Father's Day to all.
Mm-hmm.
Every week we get together. Oh, I already went over that. That's
You
what
did.
we do.
You can say it again if you want.
I don't want to. Why are you letting me do this? No
Yeah,
one
the more
likes
you
it.
do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah, you've only, if you think about it, over the time that we've done this show, you've only done it a handful of times.
True that. It's because I do a poor job. But you're right. I need to do it more. Get better at it.
Yeah.
Thank you for supporting me.
Yeah.
Man. You're a great father.
Sure. Best.
I'd say so.
Do we...
You're actually the best dad I know.
What have y'all been up to this week? Ryan, we'll start with you.
I feel like what I've been up
Try
to...
and talk a little louder. Project.
I feel like what I've been up to is probably much the same as what Tom's been up to this week. Playing a lot of Onrush. You know what that is?
Onrush, Shanae, is a game that you watched with us be announced at Paris Games Week about 7-8 months ago.
Yeah.
I have the memory of a goldfish.
Do you remember when we talked about Sony closing down Evolution Studio?
Yes.
Codemasters picked them up.
Okay.
This is that studio's first game. They're
Okay.
now called Evo, but it is Evolution, and it's fantastic.
Give us a breakdown, Tom.
So Codemasters makes a bunch of racing games, as did Evolution Studios. They made MotorStorm, they made Drive Club, they made the weird PS2 racing games. I can't remember what they're called. Anyhow, Onrush is not really a racing game. There's cars, you are driving fast the whole time, but there's no finish line, there's no places or anything like that. It is very similar.
Is it objective based?
Yeah, it's objective-based, points-based, team-based, class-based.
Okay.
It is actually...
all in one mode or different modes?
There are 4 different modes. It
Okay.
takes a lot of inspiration. The developers talked about this. Actually, there's a documentary on them, on this game specifically, through Digital Foundry. And they talk about directly taking inspiration from Overwatch. And you totally see that in the game. So...
I'm okay with that.
And other first-person shooters. So, like, the main mode is called Overdrive, and it's teams of 6. So there's a blue team and an orange team. And you are trying to fill a meter. The first team to fill that meter wins, right? The way you fill the meter is by boosting your car. The way you gain boost is by destroying other vehicles, taking jumps, near misses, things of that nature. So that's like the main mode.
Okay.
Then there's a
How
mode...
are you can fill that meter by doing different things? So
Yeah.
if you're not good at something, you can...
And there's a mode
Focus.
that's basically King of the Hill,
Okay.
where there's
well, with cars.
there's a zone that travels down the track with you, and you want to get as many of your color in that zone for a period of time to capture that point,
Okay.
while keeping the other cars out of that zone. There's a mode that is basically the gun game from games like Counter-Strike or Call of Duty, where you start as a motorcycle, you get taken out, you come back as a car, you get taken out, you come back as a larger vehicle and a larger vehicle. What's the last mode?
The time gates one.
Yeah, so this one's probably the most similar, like a racing game. Is there's gates. You have a timer. Each team has a timer that's counting down, and you have to pass through these gates to add more time to your clock.
Yeah, and so the more people who have passed through the gate, the less seconds you get from passing through the gate. So it benefits you to be the first through the gate, or at least one of the first. But the cool thing about it is, like Tom said, there are different classes. Like each car like has a different specialty that it can fulfill. Um, and like for example, the bikes, they're probably better suited for like the time gates mode because they're the most nimble, and so they can probably speed ahead of the pack faster and like get through the gates faster and do more in short order.
Tighter turns.
Yeah, stuff like that. But there are also other vehicles that serve other purposes. Like there's one car that when that car is around the other vehicles on its team is refilling their boost meter. Another car that like when it's around other.
Oh.
There's support, right? Like shield.
Yeah, there's one that shields
That's
other.
super neat. I like that it's like almost like a shooter but with car. Yeah, I like
But
that.
like it doesn't stop there, right? Like, so it's class based.
What is this called again?
Onrush.
Onrush.
So it's class based. You have what's called your rush, which is just like your ultimate in Overwatch.
It's like it functions exactly the same
And
way. It
it's
charges up the same way.
different for each class, just like in Overwatch.
Yeah.
In between deaths, you can select a different class, just like in Overwatch.
Nice.
When the match is over, you get what is essentially a loot box, which you can open for only cosmetic items, just like Overwatch. Like there's a leveling progression that does absolutely nothing, just like Overwatch.
Yeah.
How much is this game?
$60.
Yeah.
Okay.
The parallels between it and Overwatch are actually like.
Would you say
very
worth the $60?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh, by the way, ranked out today.
Yeah. So.
I haven't played it yet, but when I got on, that's the daily. You just play X amount of ranked matches.
So Tom and I Tom and I are the only people that we know that own the game. So we've only been playing. Like, the only multiplayer that I've been really playing
Is with him.
with teams and everything is with him. I could also we're definitely wanting other people to join in because I could definitely see where the communication would pay off and like where like team composition is a big like in Overwatch again, team composition is a very big deal. Like it doesn't help the team for everybody to be on bikes, for example. And it doesn't help the team for everybody to be like the same support car or anything like that.
You know about this game, Shanae. Like over the past month or two, I've mentioned this and Blade Strangers as two games I'm very excited about that no one's gonna play. Like I don't think that Onrush will have legs.
I would have to like listen to you speak and actually pay attention to it to remember it.
Sure. Like I hope it sticks around, but like I don't think it will.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the game's only been out like 2 weeks.
Probably less than that.
Less than that. For right now, the game is new and people are playing it, so getting into a match is really quick. But yeah, I imagine unless
in like 6 months' time, it might be different.
Well, I guess and that also I feel like that depends on like the frequency at which they add to this game.
Well, and here's the thing, right? Like reviews have been mostly favorable for this game. But like a lot of the bigger sites aren't doing video reviews for it, just written reviews. So like IGN doesn't have a video review for it, neither does GameSpot, right? So that doesn't help it.
What about the Game Trust?
That's GameStop.
They put stuff on their website.
Yeah, but they're also a publisher, so.
Yeah. Do that.
So like there are I think Kotaku has a video review for it, but like the big sites don't have video reviews for it, so that doesn't help it. And advertising, as far as I know, the launch trailer I believe is still the only trailer for that game.
Yeah. It's a shame though because I think that this game is doing. I think it's doing some very interesting things with the driving game genre, and it's not it's not a racing game. It's probably more closer to like a car combat game.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, base PS4 60 frames.
Yeah.
Base Xbox 130, but yeah.
It's a fantastic looking game. It plays great. The sense of speed in that game is just, I think, is really really adds a lot to it. And it's cool. Like one of the things I love about it is like every time Tom and I are playing together, and every time like one of us does something, like it's exciting. Mm-hmm. Like every time one of us gets a takedown on someone else, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the cooler stuff in the game, like you have to work for it. Like the takedowns don't come like easily. Like you kind of have to set yourself up just right to pull one of those off. Especially like if you get a takedown that results from you like landing on someone else, it's like that's a huge thing too. But the game, I think, it's I really hope that more people like latch onto it. I hope that they're able to retain people like through additional content, things like that. But as it is, no pun intended, like out of the gate, it's great.
Yeah, if the game is nothing else but this, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, and like people are getting good at this game. Like
I had one pretty bad bug.
What's that?
I was in the 4th round of a tournament and the game crashed.
Aww.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I figured out what trick callouts are.
What's that?
So a call out is basically anything that happens where like it'll say like where it says you did the thing.
Got it.
Like that's a call out.
Okay.
So as long as you did a trick and it registers in the
So
thing.
basically any trick.
Right.
Yeah.
So it like all you had. So when it was saying you to get 10 calls, they just say do 10
a trick.
tricks.
Yeah.
Which
The single player is really fun too, by the way. It's the same events, only with AI controlled vehicles, obviously. But like, there is a lot there, and there are like little objectives for each one. Like, not only is it win the event, but also like get 10 crush takedowns.
Yeah.
Or things of that nature.
Yeah.
Do X amount of tricks, whatever it might be. And some of them get pretty hard later in the campaign.
Yeah.
That comet vomit thing, or vomit comet, whatever it is, that trophy, that's 4 barrel rolls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Very hard.
Yeah, this is probably the most like I've like outside of an actual first person shooter, because I think that when it comes to online multiplayer games, like the games that I play the most are probably first person shooters, and outside of one of those, like this is probably the most I've played online. Like I typically, with a lot of games, I will play the single player mode to like probably at least close to completion before I jump into the online.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted, with the mindset, I think part of it was like I had the mindset like I don't know how long the online community for this game is going to exist.
Yeah.
So I kind of just wanted to jump into it right away, and
I've been playing Third Strike online.
How has that been?
It's great. I'm more familiar with that game now than I've ever been before. It's kind of been my gaping hole in Street Fighter history.
Right.
Like, I've played the game before, but never to this extent. It's fantastic. Yeah. Really good game.
Are you still maining Kid?
I'm kind of bouncing around. But, I'm still getting used to it. But, like, it's so fun because, like, it's the arcade games, right? Like, it is the arcade versions of these games. So that means you get everything good that comes with that and everything bad that comes with it. And while they've added in very little to that besides online, they have added training mode into 4 of the games, Third Strike being one of them. And the training modes are as robust as Street Fighter training modes typically are, which is nice. Everybody out there who plays Third Strike on this collection, like, you can record the Justin Wong Chun-Li combo and have the dummy play that back over and over again, so you can try to do the Daigo parry. It's very fucking hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember how many parries that was?
I don't know. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot with like perfect timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shanae, what have you been up to?
I have been reading a lot still. I've mentioned to both of you, I think, that I've been reading a new book series and enjoying that. But with the new Kingdom Hearts trailers coming out, I've gotten back to Birth by Sleep. I really want to play the new God of War game, like really, really badly. So I keep thinking that maybe I will stop playing after Birth by Sleep, like take a break, play a God of War game, get back to it. But honestly, I don't know if I will finish the series if I pick up God of War before like 3 comes out.
Absolutely, you will.
Yeah.
It got pushed back till next year.
I know.
And also, I feel like...
And it'll probably get pushed back again.
Yeah. That game's never coming out.
Statistically, it's more likely to get pushed back again.
Yeah.
Y'all don't have to say such hurtful things to me. I can just leave.
I'm just saying you have time.
Well.
I
feel like you've played so much Kingdom Hearts lately that maybe it's time for a little bit of a palate cleanser.
I just
Sure.
I don't know though. I just I know myself, and you've mentioned before, when I get into something, I really get into it.
Yeah.
So when I get out of it, it's hard to get back into it because I was at such a high level.
I don't see you having a problem getting back into Kingdom Hearts.
I have replayed the series,
Like-
at least 1 and 2, quite often.
I don't know. You like anime a whole lot, and Kingdom Hearts is an anime-ass game, and I think that you'll have I think you'll slide right into
Well,
it.
I just
It's fine.
because after I finish Birth by Sleep, the only thing that's going to take me a while is going to be Dream Drop Distance, which I've already played, but I want to play again. So I'm just it's kind of
Just crit path, man. Go as fast as you can.
Are you trying like? 'Cause
I
you-
want to make sure that I get all of the lore down.
Are you doing that?
100% before 3. Yes.
Okay. Because I don't know how much lore the side stuff has.
It's they're all pretty lore heavy after 1.
Okay. I don't know how your brain contains all that stuff.
It's because I don't learn anything useful, and I just know a lot about the Green Lantern universe and
Right.
Kingdom Hearts,
Sure.
and that's about it.
Okay.
Cool.
I think you should take a break from Kingdom Hearts for a little bit though,
I don't know.
for your own health and sanity. I think
Maybe.
that it's time for a little less Kingdom Hearts.
I do really want to play God of War, really bad.
I think you should. I think that your excitement for Kingdom Hearts 3 is such that you can play through God of War, and then probably immediately get back into Kingdom Hearts and be fine. I think you will have no problem summoning up the motivation to get back into Kingdom Hearts.
I'll just keep watching the trailers, and it'll make me want to get back to it.
Yeah. But that game is never coming out, so.
Shut up!
Okay.
Okay, so what I want to do is a little different. I want us to each have a topic, something that got us thinking, dealing with video games.
Okay.
So recently I watched Capcom on their YouTube put out a few different documentaries on Street Fighter, the history of Street Fighter. And one of the parts is talking about the next generation of Street Fighter players, the younger generation of Street Fighter players, and how they are excelling very quickly past veteran players. So they're very good at winning. But also talking about how bad they are at losing. And I started watching a couple of different interviews, not in this documentary, with other people talking about this. And the whole consensus is that people our age, and even your age, Sinead, as well a little bit, when we were younger, playing fighting games, or competitive games in general, we weren't playing online. We were either playing next to each other at home, or with strangers in an arcade.
Yeah.
So if you lost, you got an audience, you know. And because of that, they're saying that the older generation is better about losing, not fucking freaking out online over headsets, things of that nature.
I think it has a lot to do with maturity as well.
Sure, but I mean, when we were playing these games, we had no choice, right? Like, yeah, Ryan and I are 5 years old playing a game of Street Fighter at home. Yeah, we could get pissed at each other or whatever, right? But like, as an adult, young adult or not, playing in an arcade where there's a crowd of people watching you, and the person you're playing with is probably somebody you've never met before anyway.
I've seen a lot of people get pissy and just walk away.
Not saying it doesn't happen. What I am saying is that, and what all of these people are saying, is that because of that, people that did grow up in that time have become better about losing than the younger generation has. Just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that.
Okay, so I think honestly that it has a lot to do with what you were saying before, is that I think that coming up in our generation, we're just more conditioned for that, right? And like, we're conditioned for playing video games in an environment where the social contract dictates that we don't lose our shit in that way.
Right.
You know, we're talking about like being in an arcade, right? You know,
And even in public, they specifically brought up, can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. Anyway, he was slotted to win Capcom Cup. He was slotted to win Evo. He loses Evo. He won Capcom Cup.
Right.
At Evo, he loses and he's crying.
Right.
Like in front of thousands of people on ESPN.
Right, and that's indicative of someone who most of the time when they've lost in the privacy of their own home.
Sure, and granted, like that is,
I don't
that's
know.
a lot of money gone. That's a lot of fame
I was
gone.
like, I don't know about
but-
like crying because of that. Like, if we're just
Well, I
doing,
think
we're just doing one example of one person, that person could like be like he could have like dedicated. I mean, obviously he dedicated a lot of time and an effort
Sure.
into that, and losing all of that money and like honestly something you have pride about. And
But like,
losing-
so does Justin Wong, right? And he loses to Daigo Mihara in one of like the biggest video game moments ever, and he shakes the guy's hand.
But I don't necessarily the thing that indicates necessarily age as far as like or like is just like the type of person they are.
Well, I think that
If we're just doing one example to one example,
Right.
I need like more.
Well,
I need more of like a.
what Tom has given you is what Tom has given you is kind of an extreme example, but
That is an extreme example, but like even just
But
playing
even
casually, not professionals, online, right? Granted, it's hard to say what age a lot of these people are because most of them are strangers to me. But you do notice it, and I didn't notice it last generation, right? Playing Street Fighter 4 last generation versus playing Street Fighter 5 this generation, you see a lot of people not doing the 3 fights. If they lose the first fight, they bounce because it's affecting their ranking, Whereas like it is customary in the FGC, all fighting games for that matter, to give them 3 fights,
But like,
and that's being bad at losing. That's being a bad loser,
but you also don't know what age those people that are backing out of the first fight are.
Absolutely.
And I don't know. Obviously,
But when it happens more now than it used to, I can assume it's younger players.
because I think that it kind of depends a lot on when you came into video games, specifically competitive video games, where we talked about when we were playing Street Fighter in the arcade, and that was back when, unless you're talking specifically about a competitive circuit, ranking wasn't a thing.
Right.
And so
I mean, I guess you could, if you really care about having your score on the arcade cabinet, but if
But-
Street Fighter 2 was out, people didn't really give a
But
shit.
at the same time, so you lose at Street Fighter 2. Worst case scenario, you're out a couple of quarters, right? And there's nothing indicative of that beyond that. Whereas now now that we exist largely in a largely connected social infrastructure, especially now that games are more socialized. If you're coming into video games later on, then that stuff is more meaningful to you. Personally, when I play online games, like when I'm like I said, at the top of the show, outside of Onrush, I didn't really play online games competitive like that much, unless we're talking about first-person shooters. Now, first-person shooters, especially like modern ones like Battlefield and Call of Duty and everything like that, they all have ranking systems in them.
Yeah.
And one of the things with first-person shooters, the one thing that people track is your kill-death ratio. I don't care about the kill-death ratio. Whereas somebody who was conditioned and brought up in an environment where that had always existed, they're probably more apt to care about it. And I'm not saying that there aren't people of Tom and I's generation
Absolutely
that don't care about that, because there certainly are. But I think that when you are...
You mean that do care about that?
Right.
Right. Like, I don't think it has as much to do with age as it does to do with, how you've been conditioned to handle a specific kind of adversity.
But like the older people would have been conditioned that way.
Yeah, and I guess
in general,
right?
Not everybody.
I think that there are a lot of things that we have to consider that we can't really account for, mostly because these are things that we can't know. They're unknowable things, like we can't know their age, we can't know how they were brought up, we can't know what their social and specifically their video game background is. We can't know that. But there are things that we can assume, and there are environmental factors like what kind of games they started with. And I think that if your Street Fighter career started back 25 years ago, then you've had a lot more practice with losing. You've had a lot more
Sure.
practice with losing. Because don't get me wrong, like Evo is a huge stage, right? That is watched the world over, but at the same time,
And I'm not just talking about that guy. I'm talking about people I've played against.
But at the same time, the arcade was a stage of sorts too, and and especially if you were a player of some notoriety, even locally, there are people who are going to gather around that cabinet to watch you play, and losing in front of anybody, it comes with a specific emotional connotation. And if you come up in that environment where that was commonplace, then you're gonna be better at handling it. Whereas if a lot of your competitive like gaming took place online where you can lose like outside of the eyesight of other people, then losing in front of even 10 or 20 people is going to hit you a lot harder.
Shanae, you look like you have something you want to say.
I disagree with both of you. I disagree with both of you very much.
That's
so.
okay. That's why we're having this discussion. I want to know what you think.
I have very vivid memories, like of being younger in the arcade and playing Tekken predominantly. Whenever there was a Tekken machine
Sure.
at like any arcade or movie theater or places I went. Specifically, I have a very vivid memory of being with my brother and him watching me play because he knew that me and my father, which I've mentioned multiple times, would play a lot. And being good at it at the arcade and having men while I was like in my preteen years or younger, like, and like men that were probably between, I'm gonna say young men and like a little bit older, not being as good as me, and like beating them and them being very upset about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like anecdotally, yes, like in my experience, like I just don't think that like I think the type of person you are and how you are raised is how you can handle rejection or defeat. I don't think that necessarily it has to do with any sort of age group.
But you don't think that like just the technology changing and how people have come up with games could have an effect on that?
I honestly don't think that necessarily it does.
I'm not saying it necessarily. Like, obviously, there's cases where it does not, for sure. There are young people that are very graceful losers. I guarantee it. I'm not saying everybody.
No, and I'm saying, but even like making grand generalized statements, I don't think in a generalization you can say like the older group is better. Like, not so just saying generalization, even being just like say minimum 60%. Minimum 60% of like older generation and like generalizing like younger generation. I don't think you can say that like the younger generation are worse losers.
Okay.
I think that like because of technology.
I'd like you to watch some of these interviews.
I think because of technological advances on every age spectrum, maybe what you want to put effort into and have pride in or have as a hobby has affected people of all ages of how they want to view their like time spent. Whether it being like if I'm gonna put money and time into this, I want to have high KDR. I want to have a better like round per matches because I want to feel proud about this thing that I'm putting time and money into when I have so many other options. I think that regardless of your age, like that can still like be a factor.
And we are talking about just normal players as well, not just
I'm talking about
people going to fucking Evo and
no,
shit.
I'm not talking about Evo. I'm talking about like normal players. I'm talking about like because y'all are in your early 30s, me and Berto are in our late 20s. Like, I'm talking about people we know and, like, also who we've both played against online. I'm talking about, like, going and hanging out with Berto while I went to, like, MVC3 tournaments in San Antonio. And, like, people I saw of all different age groups and seeing how they lose, like, in a face-to-face and when I've met online. I don't really think that age is indicative of how they're going to, like, when I see somebody, like back out immediately, I don't assume their age. Okay. It has any factor into that.
Well, like I said, like I think it has less to do with age than how you came into video games and other factors that are unknowable, like how you were brought up and.
I agree.
And what other things you now on the same.
I think the timing of these technologies advancing and of the community advancing the way it has, that is what makes for the younger demographic being this way.
Now, like. No.
I think that technological advances do play a factor in how people are perceiving these games and what they want out of them, but I don't think that age is a factor in it.
Now, on the same token, like I'm hearing you say that you don't think that it's fair to generalize that everybody in this age group is going to react that way, which is fair.
I'm saying
But
minimum 60%.
but at the same time, the basis of that argument was your experience going to the arcade and playing Tekken, and what I think is firstly what you're describing is, I think that as a Tekken player at that age, you were probably a bit of an anomaly. So that is the sample. Well, hold on. The sample size for that wouldn't be large enough to kind of counter argue that, and you also have to consider the fact that I don't know how much older these men were than you, but there's a societal effect to take into consideration too. One,
That's true.
one, by and large, and this is just, and I feel like this is a fact, men don't like losing to girls.
Especially not to little girls.
and men also don't like losing to people who are considerably younger than them. Especially like back when you were playing Tekken in the arcade, I'm sure that grown men probably didn't like losing to a little girl in the arcade, and so I feel like that probably had something to do. I'm not saying that,
But it's different than an adult versus an adult.
right? So I'm saying so that is, like I said, like you were probably a bit of an anomaly in that regard, and also it's a bit skewed in that way too, and I think that also, I'm not saying again, and I want to say that I'm not saying at all that whatever the reaction was, like based on what I'm assuming their reaction was based on what you've said, I don't think at all that their reaction was justified, but there is definitely a cause and effect, like not a cause and effect, but like an explanation for that.
Yeah, no, and that's what I said. That's just anecdotally. But in other experience, obviously, it's still anecdotally. But I'm talking about like even just like not even playing MVC tournaments, which are also normally Street Fighter tournaments as well, going at the same time in the same place. The ones that I went to, anyways. But I'm talking about watching other people play online myself, where they don't know my gender and stuff like that. I still don't think that age has a correlation really with being a sore loser, but I do think that technological advances does have a lot to do with it.
I think and again I agree with the point that you're making about age, and I think that technological advances, especially the anonymity afforded to people by the internet, has made it so that we don't lose gracefully, right? And I say we like as like in a collective sense as far as the video game community is concerned. Um, the online shooter communities are notoriously awful. And I think that has a lot to do with where we are technologically and the ways with which we can reach out to each other, like post-match, mid-match, or whatever, and we get an outcome that we don't like, then it is very easy for us to reach out to whomever we feel is responsible for that and say some awful things to them as a result of being a sore loser. And I think that, but I also think about the fact that I think about my age. I think about how old I am, and I think about how old Tom is, and even I think about how old you are, right? Now, we take one of us going online and playing any game. Like, pick a game that you like and playing it online and losing at it, right? What are you likely to do? You're probably going to just move on to the next match, right? Like, that sucks that I lost, but
I'm gonna get mad about it. I'm like, why? Like, I'm gonna think about what I did.
Okay.
I'm gonna ruminate on it for a second.
Okay, so...
As you should.
But do you think that you're going to have a very raw, visceral, emotional reaction to it?
Well, I mean, I think Sinead's a special case.
Sure.
We've heard all about your being banned from Warcraft and all that.
Yeah, but I will say that.
So the point.
Wrap it up, guys. Wrap it up.
So.
Wrap it up. Yeah. All right. I think maturity does have a lot to do with it. There are people that I've met younger than me that I feel are more mature than I am, and I've definitely met people older than me that I feel like are less mature than I am. And yes, when I got banned from World of Warcraft, I feel like I was less mature than I am now. I don't think necessarily like age is indicative of that, but I think like how you're raised and your life experiences are that. But I already like I said, I don't think age is indicative of being a sore loser. I think technologically advances and how you are around that does.
Okay, let us know what you think. Ryan,
Mm-hmm.
much like I did, give us something. Give us some sort of topic that you think we could put some interesting opinions on.
I can't account for how interesting or uninteresting your opinions might be based on this, but it's something that I think about a lot, especially something that I think about now lately. Um, like, I talked before about how Onrush subverted my expectations uh, and kind of undermined what I think a driving game could be in a lot of ways, and it reminds me of what we can do in like these different spaces where video games are concerned. It was really easy for me previously to believe that like arcade racing, like every interesting thing you can do with arcade racing had been done. That's what I thought, because I didn't put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah.
And when it's a genre that you don't spend a lot of time with, it's easy for you to make a surface assessment of it and be like, well, everything that you could do with that is there, right?
All right.
And I'm making a lot of assumptions here. That's kind of just how my mind works.
Sure.
But it's really cool it had always been really cool to see genres that I have an interest in though come out with something new and fresh, because what I was expecting when you first showed me Onrush
Was Motorstorm.
I was expecting another Motorstorm.
So was I.
Which is cool.
I was still excited for that.
It's
Just another Motorstorm.
yeah,
I was like,
that's great, right?
Yep.
It's great. Like I would gladly play another
Yep.
Motorstorm.
Yep.
And that's when in the lead up to Onrush.
But when it wasn't that.
Yeah, when the lead up to Onrush, that's what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Right, until maybe a week before I learned more about it, and then I was like, this actually sounds. That's different. I don't know if I'm more excited about it, but actually having hands on it though made it so that the prospect of going back to that game is more exciting, I think.
Dude, when we first realized what the gameplay was going to be, I was worried.
Yeah.
I was like, just give me Motorstorm, don't fuck this up.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
So glad it was something else.
And it very easily could have been, right?
Yeah.
Codemasters could have very easily have said, you know what?
Do that again.
Just do that again, because
Yeah.
that's what you're good at.
Yeah.
Do that again, because we know you can make that. And I'm making assumptions about, how much that decision had to do with just Evo by themselves versus what was being dictated by Codemasters proper.
Sounds like Codemasters said, do what you want.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what that's what I've been thinking about, right? Is that how when we're coming into like the new generation of of consoles and coming into like more powerful hardware and being able to make games look better, and I've said before, that's not what I want. What I want is more interesting games. I don't need better looking games. I think games could look better, but I don't need them to look better at this point. I need them to be more interesting. And what I think about is publishers giving those developers more creative freedom to do things that we hadn't considered.
Yeah.
Because that was something that I had never considered before, and I had a conversation fairly recently with a community member, Corey, about what Battle Royale could be. Because the argument that he was making was, we have 3 big ones and they're all doing pretty well.
Right.
And I just think that, but there are so many things that can be done. And I just think about like where I want my favorite genres to go, like what kind of frontiers I want them to like see, within like the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I feel like you being a huge fighting game fan, I feel like there are things that can be done with fighting games that you hadn't considered.
Absolutely.
And I guess I wanted to know like how often do you feel like are you playing a fighting game and you think to yourself like, you know, this game could use a little bit of something else. Like, what if there was another layer on top of what I'm playing now? Is there another mechanic that I could do? Or maybe you were playing a game and you thought of a mechanic that you could add to it that would enhance it.
All right.
Not frequently. Like specifically with fighting games, not frequently.
Yeah.
With other genres, sure. With fighting games, I feel like from one game to the next, even if they're in the same series, from a surface level, yeah, they kind of all look the same.
But
They are very different.
as a fan, they're different enough to make them interesting.
They're extremely different,
Right.
you know. And I think a lot of people that don't play a lot of fighting games don't realize that. They see two dudes and two health meters, and they're like, "This is the same as that game, same as that game."
Yeah.
Way fucking different.
Right.
Even in the same series, right? Even in like every Street Fighter 2 game, which there are many, is significantly different from each other.
Right.
You know, people don't get that. There's a whole joke about Super Turbo Ultra Championship Edition. You know,
Right.
developers make that joke, right? We saw it with Guacamelee.
Yeah.
But yeah, like those aren't the same games. You know.
Yeah.
With fighting games, I don't see it. With other genres, racing games was one of them up until recently.
Yeah.
And I'm not even just talking about Onrush. There are other games that are doing new things in the racing genre that I think are very interesting. Shooters. I'd like to see more interesting shooters come out.
Have you thought of like any ideas of how to make a shooter more interesting?
Like Splatoon?
Well, that's what I was about to bring up is Splatoon. Like, that is the only thing that has happened in a long time that I was like, wow, this is really different.
Yeah, and I think Splatoon like really broke away from convention in like,
Right.
a lot of different ways, right? Whereas basically every shooter, kind of, well, not every shooter, but a lot of shooters kind of boil down to the same thing, right? Like even if you put like different like traversal methods or whatever, like Titanfall and Call of Duty, like they play different, right? But a lot of the objectives are the same, and
Right.
and the method by which you
Made by a lot of the same people.
right, and the method by which you accomplish those objectives is pretty similar.
Right.
But you throw Splatoon in there, and it's like, hey, well, hold on, the objective isn't to kill the other players. Like you certainly can't do that.
Yeah, it's extremely helpful if you do.
Right.
But you can be a great Splatoon player without killing anybody.
That you could be a great
Yeah.
Splatoon player and have like a really bad KD ratio.
Right.
And so that's one of the ways that it like kind of turns the genre on its head a bit.
Yeah.
Any other kind of games though?
Old school JRPGs have been making like somewhat of a comeback, right?
Yeah.
Like Pure Solar, I Am Setsuna, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Bravely Default. But like that genre is so fucking old at this point. I'm talking specifically turn-based
Right.
JRPGs like Final Fantasy fucking 1,
Right.
right? That genre is so old and we haven't seen new takes on it, like really creative new takes on it in a long time. Like Child of Light, which is not Japanese, but I would say it's a JRPG. It's a Canadian JRPG. Like, there's the whole timing mechanic, right? But like, we got that with Super Mario RPG.
Right.
That's not a new mechanic, right? Yeah, there needs to be, like, I would like to see new stuff with that. Octopath Traveler looks promising, but like, even that, like, okay, it's a little different, but still, it's not that much of a
Right.
change, you know.
It's just that it's funny because like I feel like especially in the JRPGs and like this is, and I don't know if this is reductive or not. It very well could be. I don't mean it to be, but it just very much seems like a lot of the time when it comes to specifically JRPGs, you have someone who is like kind of married to their favorite franchise, and they don't like when things about it change. There's like, well, I don't like that.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, I've always preferred turn-based
Right.
to active. Like, I want 7 Remake to be turn-based. It's not going to be,
Right.
but I want it to be.
Right.
But just because it's turn-based doesn't mean it has to be the same thing
Right.
that it has been for 35 years.
Yeah.
You know?
It doesn't have to just be prettier Final Fantasy VII.
Right.
Right. Which it's a funny thing. That's a funny thing too is that I hear people talk about that game,
Mm-hmm.
and that's literally what they want. They just want prettier Final Fantasy VII. It's like,
And I would rather have that than this active battling system that had in 15 and Kingdom Hearts and all
Right.
sorts of other shit. I'd rather have traditional turn-based, but it doesn't mean it has to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
And yes, I know there's different things, materia system, and different Octopath Traveler. You've got shit like recruiting townsfolk and stuff like that. But like,
the core
do
combat,
something to really change this shit up.
Yeah. The core combat is
The last thing that I think
Insane.
really changed it up was Mario RPG,
Yeah.
which you saw all throughout the Mario and Luigi games, and then a few other games, Child of Light. But like,
Yeah.
that was the last substantial change to that genre I can think of.
Yeah. What about you, Shanae?
What was the question?
So,
I was thinking I was out of the room for it.
basically thinking about, taking genres that we consume the most of in video games and how a lot of them have stuck to very tried and true conventions to, maintain their audience and sell copies of new iterations of the game. But also talking about how how there are different ways that they can innovate on themselves. Like, drawing in the most recent example, of course, being Onrush, in the way that it took the arcade racing genre and made something new and interesting with it. Now, are there any genres or games that or franchises, I guess, proper, that you've maybe thought of new mechanics for, or thought of how they could be better outside of what they normally do?
How you make a new exciting Otomi?
Yeah.
I agreed with that thing. That's what I thought the question was. Because like that's what I was getting from what Tom was saying. So I definitely agree with the JRPGs, especially old school ones, specifically. Like there's things that I would do different with like Star Ocean and their franchise, even though has there been a new Star Ocean recently?
Recently, like in the last year or so.
Okay, then I obviously haven't played that one.
Integrity and Faithlessness, I think.
Okay,
I could be wrong.
Last one I think what I played was on the PS3. So
yeah.
But all the ones that I've played, there's definitely a lot of things I would do different with that one. I liked so much about it.
People weren't so hot on the newest one.
So what would you change about it?
With a lot of Star Ocean stuff, unless like it's a lot of old school JRPGs basically force you to look at a guide to get what you want out of it.
Right.
Like if you want like a certain ending or a certain something, like you have to look at a guide. It's just like vague. Like even if you like are a lore fan,
yeah,
like you don't necessarily get what they're trying to get at.
So you would streamline it more or make that stuff more apparent?
Just if like have it more spelled out if you're gonna read the lore.
Okay.
I think that comes from it being such an old genre, like from a time where we didn't have guides. Like even like a paper-bound book guide was rare back then.
Right.
Yeah.
You just gotta play that shit over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just like when you put like over 100 hours into a Star Ocean game and realize that you're not gonna be able to achieve something because you didn't do one single side quest.
And Star Ocean is much longer than Final Fantasy 1 or Dragon Warrior.
It is.
And the prospect of starting over is absolutely daunting.
Yeah.
Or like just because you want this one certain ending or this like you have to like do this side quest.
Right.
That reading the lore and reading it makes it seem like it's an inconsequential one. So you're like, there's so much stuff to do. I can't do every single side quest.
Right.
Do it.
Yeah, I don't want it to be labeled a side quest necessarily and not and miss out on something because I thought based on what I've been reading that it doesn't really matter.
Right.
I want it to like have something where like I know that it is a part of the lore and like and something that's important. I want there's a lot of like there's just been a lot of JRPGs specifically that like something is important but it doesn't seem like it.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be a localization like problem, but it just doesn't seem like it's like when I'm reading it, it doesn't seem like it's important. So I'm like, all right, I'll skip it because it's not
a localization problem.
I mean, so the thing of more like the indie ones that I've like done English patches for.
Yeah.
Just mainly like that. And then I don't know, some roguelikes I think I get too complicated.
How's that?
With playing, I've recently played Darkest Dungeon again,
Mm-hmm.
and compared to when I first played it, I actually found it less fun because there's so much to like focus on.
Mm.
And I liked it when I like originally played it, and there was I guess it was more streamlined. I don't know. I want everything more streamlined. I want it to be what I like, but also streamlined.
Yeah.
I don't like. I think I'm just like at a point where I'm a little over having to read a guide to get what I want out of the game.
Yeah, it's funny though because like I'm sure that there are, thousands of people who are apt to agree with you, and then you'll have the diehard fans of each of the, like you'll have the diehard fans of like Darkest Dungeon or any other equally obtuse game and be like, no, if you need that stuff spelled out, then you don't really love the game. Like people who are like that.
Like I mean that's the reason why me and Berta stopped playing Don't Starve Together. It's like I told you I had a little booklet that was like writing things.
Yeah.
But when I finally started
That game doesn't tell you anything.
And when I started looking at more and more and more and stuff online and like thinking like realizing how things came together, I just got like it was just overwhelming, like that, like how much I don't get about it.
Yeah.
And it's just I don't like that. I don't like that. Like
that genre though, right? Like the survival genre, it's part of it to not really tell you stuff.
Yeah.
The fact that like Minecraft now gives you an ingredient list on console versions is like astonishing to me, because when that game was in alpha, like
that was part of
you figured out
allure,
everything.
part of the charm.
Yeah.
And there was probably, and I didn't play it back then. I didn't play it until it came to consoles.
Yeah.
There had to have been some, like a level of like a feeling of accomplishment when you like.
Oh yeah, you make a torch with like the simplest fucking thing. You were fucking amazed, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah.
I am actually curious now that Tom said it. Like, have you thought of ways to make better or more interesting Atomi?
More boys.
Mm-hmm. Double the boys.
Always. The main problem with a lot of Atomis...
That's like Delvin gum commercials.
Mm-hmm.
The main problem with a lot of Atomis is the main character not having a personality.
Like the
one that you're playing as.
Okay.
Because...
It's an avatar.
It's an avatar, but I like them more as visual novels, like where it's a book, where I don't necessarily have to relate to the person I'm reading. I want to...
You'd rather be a spectator than a participant.
In some ways, yeah. Like it depends on like how the gameplay kind of goes and how the storyline goes. But like there's a lot of times like even in forums people are wanting to play as an avatar. They wish they had more kind of interesting options where not every option is basically the same answer reworded.
Okay.
Where it's like I would never say any of these things. I would never do any of these things. Like if you're going to have such distinct personalities between the characters, have more distinct answers.
Okay.
And also, like, with the Atomis, it is hard to do a lot of, like, the good, bad, or normal ending, which not every one of them, actually most of them don't, but a lot of the ones that you pay higher dollar for have at least 3 different endings. Mainly, a lot of them have 2, but a lot of them have 3 as well, or more. And it's just, like, it's really annoying to like have to read a guide to get all those.
So, you know what I think would be awesome? This is a super simple thing, and maybe it exists. I'm not that familiar with the genre. Polygonal character models.
Would that matter?
Instead of just static art.
A lot. So you mean like they like
actual movement instead of just here's a picture of people talking.
A lot of the higher priced ones have that.
A lot of them do. Because even like Root Letter, which was like a $60 game, I think it's still a $60 game, it's just static images.
Yikes. Should
Yeah, I can see that, but also at the same point, like, I don't know, it's kind of...
It's like the whole BioWare thing when you're in a conversation in a BioWare game, and it's just like... The 2 people, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also... yeah, I mean, there's quite a few of them that have, like, where, like, they move their mouth to, like, in the time to, like, the Japanese ones, so when, they localize it, like, the mouth doesn't move the same way.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of, like, $30 ones that have that, and it's like...
No, I want polygonal character models.
I can see that improving a lot of stuff for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it's also a lot of the options. The main character doesn't have a personality. They are just a blank page character.
Well, I also think like those games have a very low budget. Like even the more expensive ones have in the grand scheme of video games,
But there's
very
so
low
many that
budgets.
have like actually really interesting storylines for all the men, but then like your options are kind of the same.
Yeah.
Shanae, are you aware of the game Always Sometimes Monsters?
No.
Okay, so the thing with, and I don't know, and I was wondering how this could or would translate to Otome, but it is a game where basically anybody could be part of the story. Like any character that you see on screen can be a playable character that is a part of the story. Like, for example, there is a point at the very early on in the game, you're at a party, right? And someone is talking to you, and they say, there's like, it's basically like a celebration of like a recent success that you had, and they're like, hey, your friend, I don't remember, Bob, your friend Bob is here. Go get him so we can come take the picture with him. And so you decide who Bob is. Like of all the people at the party, like you walk up to whoever you feel like Bob is, and then they become part of the story. And I thought about like if that could like transfer to Otome in any kind of way. Like if you
That would be really interesting because then you could have probably stereotypical, like still have the character and storyline of like say like a cold silent type, but have their avatar look like whatever you want the cold silent type to look like, even if it's like a teenage boy and like that's like super cutesy looking, but have their personality be like that. That could honestly work with like the script being the same but the character model changing. That's really interesting. I like that idea.
It even got to the point where it's like they said, hey, weren't you here with your significant other? I'd really like to meet them. And you decide who in this area is your significant other, man or woman or whatever. And
Or beast.
Or beast.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Persona is the highest budget Otome. Okay, Shanae, you have one that's kind of what?
Well, I have two that I have in my mind. One is like
I only got one.
One's more opinion based as far as either or and one's more opinion based on what you think in a generalization. Which do you want?
You pick it.
Which do you think would entertain us more?
I don't think either of them entertain you.
Okay.
Well, one of them better.
Which do you think will irritate Tom least?
Yeah, give that to Papa.
All right, irritate Tom least.
Yeah.
All right. So I recently watched Second Skin.
I don't know what that is.
It's a documentary that follows like 6 or 7 people that are into MMOs and like addicted to them.
Good name.
And talks about their like
I was actually expecting it to be a weird anime.
EverQuest, WoW, and Second Life.
Okay.
I think is what.
No Guild Wars?
And Guild Wars as well is in there.
Figured it would be.
I think it is. I may be wrong.
It probably is. It's the second highest one right now.
I think. Well, it's not. It came out in 2008.
It is still the second best. Yeah.
Besides the point.
But yeah. Anyways. So in there, in one of them, and the reason I even got turned on to it is because another podcast I listened to called Goosebuds, they were talking about in the beginning of it.
Is that about Goosebumps?
Yes.
Okay.
I've heard about it on the show before. Anyways, but the guy was watching, they were watching it, and the guy's like, oh, hey, that's like my hometown, like this is like what it's like, and you go into the house, and it's very middle America, like at, like early mid-2000s, like what middle America would look like. All the houses had like wood paneling in like one room or like multiple rooms. Everyone's
you think
like
mid-2000s houses had a bunch of wood paneling?
Well, I'm talking about middle-class America.
Okay.
I lived in suburbs like most of my life, yeah.
All right.
What?
Let's
go on.
Keep going.
In middle America? You never lived... I lived in Illinois.
We're getting caught up in the wrong thing.
Midwest. Midwest middle income America. How about that?
We're getting caught up in the wrong thing here.
Anyways. But they're bringing up like how and when they went into like the homes, like nobody cleaned up in any of the room. But also one of the things to point out is all of their computers were like not on a desk, like game setup. It is
Nora's mine.
It is like on a kitchen table.
Mine's on my dining room table.
Or like on a kitchen counter. or just like on a random like card table in like a corner of the living room, not like and like you're on a stool and like you don't have like lumbar support and stuff like that.
Right.
And a lot of it, I think there's like a California, Texas, and like Midwest, but I'm specifically in the Midwest.
Okay.
If there was something about gaming addiction in San Antonio, what do you think the houses would look like?
Well,
What do you think it would be like as far as gaming addiction in, or you can even generalize it more. What do you think about like a gaming addiction in 2018 rather than 2008? What would that look like when we went to the houses? Like, what do you think the people would be like?
the funny thing is, I think that now in 2018 versus 2008, I think it's like, especially if we're talking about enabling gaming addiction, I think that we've got a lot of things that have made it less necessary to leave your house at a given time. You can have everything like
McDonald's.
like everything brought to you. I regularly have McDonald's brought to me because I don't feel like wearing pants, and not because I'm addicted to a video game. I'm addicted to my sofa.
And cinnamon.
I'm not a no. So what I'm saying is that like if 10 years ago I am less apt to leave my house because I am so entrenched in this game, and by virtue of self-preservation, I leave my house to go to the closest shop to buy whatever, to like sustain myself. Then like I have that one saving grace. Whereas now I've got Uber Eats. I've got like what else? Like what's the one that delivers the groceries to you? Shipped. I've got that.
There's there's a bunch of them.
Right. So like I can have everything I need delivered to me, and there's less.
Isn't that a good thing though?
Yeah, of course it's a good thing. I don't think that's bad. I think it's a great thing. I use Uber Eats all the time.
Well, I guess like with South Park, like how they have the World of Warcraft episode, and like the guy's like and like doesn't like has like a really shitty desk and looks tragic. Do you think that stereotype necessarily still holds? What do you think would be like now?
Well, I don't think that stereotype was actually ever really true. I think that the way that I think that those characters in that episode were very much like there are. Don't get me wrong. I know that there are people who suffer from game addiction and specifically with addiction to a specific MMO that they might play. I get that, but I think that those were extreme examples.
Yeah.
But I don't think that gaming addiction. To be honest, I don't know that it would look that much different now than it did 10 years ago. I think that.
But I think better now because of those conveniences. Because, let's say before Shipt, before Uber Eats, before things like that, a lot of those people would just not get the products that they need.
They just wouldn't eat, right?
Maybe you're not getting toilet paper. Maybe you're not getting food.
Right.
At least now you're getting it.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the healthiest way, but at least you're getting it.
Yeah. I remember about 10 years ago.
And with things like Discord now, we're being more social, right? Yeah, people were playing up with Skype back then, but like not to the extent that we do now.
I think Discord is like, I mean, we had Ventrilo and TeamSpeak and Skype and all that, but I think
been AIM, right? Shit's been around forever.
But I think that Discord is better, and well, specifically in reference to this, because I think Discord is specifically marketed at gamers, and
you still see like quick chat, but not.
Right.
You don't see it used anywhere near as much as you used to.
But I think that people like are into the idea of getting into a Discord. And even if it's talking about a specific thing, they're still socializing with other people, and they're
often about a specific game.
Right, and they're forming relationships that way, which I think is probably one of the.
It's one of the appeals in MMOs.
That's 2 Splatoon Discords.
Yeah.
I quit one. I was in 3 Splatoon Discords.
Tom made a lot of squid friends. So. But I think that one of the things that people worry about with people who suffer from gaming addiction is their separation from society at large, and their separation from human contact in general, outside of the realm of this outside of the realm of outside of the World of Warcraft, right?
I think one of the in the Second Skins thing, there's like 4 of the guys who live in the same place.
Gross.
Look, I do want to make it clear, like, if you have that problem, take care of yourself. Oh. But I do think that at least there are things to make it a little bit better. I'm not saying it's good now.
Yeah.
But it is. I do think if anything, it's improved.
I mean, addiction is addiction, right?
Yeah.
And I there are people who would say that gaming addiction isn't a thing, but I honestly believe that you can be addicted to anything. And
I'm addicted to not going to work.
sure, you're addicted to Red Bulls, not going to work, and
Cigarettes.
so let's see, two of those things. Well, actually, all those things are really cool.
Sure.
But I don't know. I just to Tom's point, the modern conveniences that we have, a decade removed from when those games were really at their peak. I think that they at least serve to help these people keep themselves alive, because you don't go to
And be at least a little social.
right, and you
Just
don't
think about like Phantasy Star Online.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking to anybody.
Yeah.
Not really.
And granted that they're of course not a solution to the larger problem, but I think that they kind of alleviate the symptoms of that disease, though. And really,
They call it Robinson's disease.
After Ryan the Rat Robinson?
and don't get me wrong, there have been times where especially early on when I first discovered MMOs, which was almost 20 years ago. 20 years ago now. There was a time where, like, when I first discovered them, when they were new to me, when I retracted from my social life a little bit because I was so fixated on those things. But I think that it would be just as easy for someone to discover MMOs now and just fall into that same thing.
Yeah, because my experience when I was like very much playing WoW.
I mean, I'll just say this: I'm not addicted to any game, and my house still looks like garbage. So.
I was like, I lived with 4 dudes and in a 2-bedroom apartment, and we like all play WoW all the fucking time. And that place was clean because one of them didn't have a job, and that's why he repaid us, is keeping the apartment clean.
No, I'd still kick it out.
But like,
You couldn't have been that hooked on WoW. Because, like, if you were that hooked, then when you got banned, you would have went fucking nuts.
Oh no, I got real mad.
But
I also instantly rebought it and
Yeah.
made a new account.
Describe to us the immediate reaction to that first ban.
It was a lot of
Act it out.
Yeah.
no, this would be a lot of cussing.
We don't swear on the show.
It was just I can't get that mad right now. I can't get that mad.
But, like, did you throw things? Did you?
Oh, pushed my fucking mouse back, like, because it was my first ban ever. I was living with my parents still, and it just like throwing the fucking mouse, yelling, screaming, waking my mom up, having her.
What time was it? Was it like late at night?
It was late at night.
Like, was it after midnight?
It was after midnight. It was just like
You're a bad kid.
Yeah, throwing the mouse, yelling, screaming, just my mom, waking my mom up, having her yell at me to calm down, and my dad having work.
Yeah.
And me yelling at her.
I just sold your computer.
It was the family computer. We had the one computer in the entire household.
Sinead, you are by no credit of your own one of the most interesting people I've ever met.
I just sent your ass to summer camp.
No, my parents didn't want to pay for that.
Yeah. They don't want to pay for a new fucking computer and mouse either.
Okay,
that
Sinead.
you wrecked.
I just did the mouse back.
So
and the
I was online a few like maybe 3 days ago, and I saw somebody like post online, like their local news station had posted, like, is your child addicted to Fortnite? Give us a call.
I saw that bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like though.
With their expert.
Because I remember going to a lot of households growing up and seeing like a computer like
It's
not
never
on
an
a
expert.
desk. Not on a desk. Like not anywhere that's like.
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, I'm saying, like, as far as gaming addiction now, I feel like people are like make it more comfortable.
What do you mean?
Because DX racer chairs are popular now? Like...
I don't know. I feel like people are more aware of lumbar support.
Sure. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Hold on, Sinead.
Lumbar,
Yeah,
by
stop
the way.
saying lumber support.
We're not supporting trees.
You said it, I let the first
Yeah,
one
me
go
too. Me
because
too.
I was just.
Yeah.
Shanae, are you?
You are in rare form, Shanae.
You are. I like this. I like this side of you. Are you addicted to Kingdom Hearts?
No.
I feel like it couldn't be.
I'm addicted to probably the book series I'm reading. Because I read that way too much. And it keeps me up now.
That's called the New Testament, right?
Yeah. All about that. All about that Jesus.
Sure.
Shanae, if you knew somebody who you suspected to be suffering from video game addiction.
I'd call Maury.
Okay.
Maury doesn't do that anymore. Maury only does Are You the Father?
Only?
Seems like it. That's all I ever see.
Well, how would you try to intervene?
I don't know. Just be the supportive and try to be their friend, and once they
I'd buy them more games.
I was about to say that when she said be supportive, I was like, you just play the game with them and then you
Yeah.
get sucked in. Now there's two.
I'm not gonna say that's not a possibility
Oh,
because
man.
it totally is. Because it totally is. I'm not gonna say you're wrong because I could totally see that happening. But actually, yeah, it's probably just any other addiction. Just be supportive. No one's gonna change unless they want to change.
Right.
And I don't know. Try and help them with resources I can find.
All right, guys. Let us know what you think about all three of our topics in the comments below. Smash that bell and
Hit that subscribe button.
yeah, and go get you some lumber support.
Oh.
Bye bye.